June 2025. Los Angeles is a city on edge, consumed by fire and fury. The official story speaks of protests, of clashes between citizens and authorities, of order being restored by the presence of the National Guard on the streets. But beneath the surface of the televised chaos, in the unseen corners and shadowed alleyways of the city, darker things are stirring. These are the accounts they don't want you to hear. 3 chilling stories from the heart of the LA riots.
Part 1. The Maestro. My job isn't on the street. I don't wear a vest or carry a weapon. I sit in a dark, cold room about 15 miles from downtown LA, and I watch. I'm a drone operator. Currently, my world is a bank of monitors showing high-altitude feeds of the LA protests. For me, the riots aren't about the noise of the smoke. It's about the data. Patterns of movement, crowd density. I watch little dots of people clumped together, and I radio in the coordinates when they start getting violent. We call them hotspots. I'm supposed to be detached, clinical, and I was, until yesterday. Started around 3 p.m. Things were getting tense near a federal building where the National Guard had a hard perimeter set up. From 500 feet up, you could see everything. I was watching a group start to break off from the main protest, moving towards a line of our guys. Standard stuff. But as I panned the drone camera, I saw something weird. There was a guy standing in an alcove away from the main action. Everyone else was a blur of motion, but he was perfectly still. The resolution isn't perfect from that high up, but one thing was unmistakable. His head was big. And I don't mean he was a big guy. I mean it was out of proportion with the rest of his body. His head was shaved, he was wearing a mask and sunglasses, so I couldn't get a face, but that silhouette, you just couldn't miss it. He seemed to be wearing a trench coat despite the heat. You know when you see something that just feels wrong, even if you can't explain why? It was sort of like that. At first I thought it was odd. I just took a mental note of the guy and refocused on the hotspot. About an hour later, in a different part of the city, a call comes in about another self-driving Waymo car being set on fire over near the 101 freeway. It's my job to swing a drone over and get eyes on it, see who's involved. As the feed comes in, I see him again, standing on a street corner watching the cars burn. That same guy, same big shaved head, standing there motionless, just like before. Now I'm starting to get spooked. Coincidence, right? It has to be. But it just kept happening. Every time a new major flare-up was called in, I'd find him. He was always on the edge of the violence, never in it, and he was doing something with his hands. I had to zoom in as much as I could. The picture was getting grainy. He was making these small, deliberate gestures, like a symphony conductor, but slow and subtle. He'd raise a finger and a volley of rocks and chunks of concrete would fly from the crowd. He'd make a slow, sweeping motion with his hand, and the crowd would surge against the police line. I felt like I was losing my mind. I didn't radio it in. What would I say? Hey, there's a guy with a big head who I think is secretly controlling the LA riots with hand gestures? They'd have me drug tested. Nevertheless, I got obsessed. I ignored the other flare-ups and I just focused my drone on him. I had to get a better look. I had to prove to myself that I wasn't crazy. I brought the drone down lower than we're supposed to. I was risking it. The hum from the rotors would be audible on the ground, but I didn't care. The camera was zeroed in on him. He was standing there. His hands were moving, and I swear the chaos was moving with him. Then suddenly, he stopped. He just stopped. His hands fell to his sides, and he slowly, deliberately tilted his head up. Through the grainy feed, through the mask and the sunglasses, I felt him look right at me, right at the drone. The instant he looked up, my screens went black. Every single one. A high-pitched alarm screamed through my headset. The system status monitor was just a solid block of red. Catastrophic signal failure. My drone was gone. It had just fallen out of the sky. It took me 10 minutes to get a backup unit in the air. I flew it straight to the last known coordinates, but he was gone. And the weirdest part? The hotspot had cooled. The crowd there had started to break up and the violence had almost completely stopped. It was like the conductor had left the stage and the show was over. There was no record, the drone was lost, the live feed wasn't saved. It was just my word. But I'm telling you this because you need to know. Someone, something is out there in the chaos, and they aren't just protesting, they're directing. So if you see footage from the riots, or if you're ever near one yourself, look for him. Look for the man with the big head, because I know he's still out there.
Part 2. The frequency. I doubt anyone's going to believe me, but I have to get this out. This took place yesterday during the riots in Los Angeles. We were marching towards City Hall, and it was just shy of 8 p.m. We got separated from the main group, maybe 30 of us, and the LAPD funneled us down this narrow side street. Before we knew what was happening, they had both ends blocked with armored vehicles. We were trapped. Nevertheless, we were yelling, chanting, you know how it is. But they didn't bring out the tear gas or the rubber bullets like we expected. They did something else. A black van, sort of like a delivery van, but with no windows and no markings, pulled up behind the police line. On top of it was this thing. It wasn't an LRAD, I've seen those before. This was different. It looked like a giant black satellite dish. It didn't look like any sort of weapon at first, so no one was really concerned when the operator swung the dish around in our direction. But then this low hum started. It wasn't loud, but you could feel it. It was like a pressure building inside your ears. People started looking around, confused, and then it happened. 1 second, I was about to yell something, and the next, I couldn't. My mouth was open, but no sound came out. I couldn't move. I was completely frozen, locked in place, staring straight ahead. It was the most terrifying thing I have ever felt. My brain was working, but my body just was off. A statue. In my direct line of sight, I could see a guy with his arm halfway through throwing a water bottle, just stuck there. I tried to scream, I tried to look around, to do anything, but there was just nothing. I was a prisoner in my own head. Then these guys came out from behind the van. Not regular cops, they were in full black tactical gear. No badges, no insignias, nothing. They looked more like federal agents than LAPD. They walked through us like we were just mannequins. They were calm, methodical. One of them walked into my field of vision and pulled a black hood over my head. I couldn't even flinch. I just felt the fabric on my face and then darkness. I could hear them moving around me. They spoke to each other in hushed whispers. I could hear one guy muttering into a radio. I felt hands searching me. They emptied my pockets and went through my stuff. Later, I felt my wallet be slipped back into my pocket, but not my phone. They kept that. All I could hear were these soft shuffling noises and the sound of their tactical boots pounding on the pavement. Eventually, I heard them marching away. And then, as suddenly as it had started, the hum stopped. The pressure in my head just vanished instantly. And it was like every wire in my body reconnected at once. I just collapsed. Everyone did. We all just fell to the ground in a heap. The pain was so unbelievable, like my muscles had all been clenched for hours. I ripped the hood off my head, but the tactical guys were gone. The van was gone, the cops were gone. They had all just vanished. Then we stumbled around disoriented and completely dazed. And that's when we noticed that some of the guys who had been the most vocal, the ones who were leaving the chants, one of them was this one girl who live-streamed everything, they were all gone. 4 people were missing. They hadn't been searched. They'd been taken. It took me a full minute to be able to stand. My legs just wouldn't work right. My speech was slurred when I tried to talk, and that was yesterday. I have the worst headache of my entire life today, but that's not the scary part. It's like my body has to recalibrate. A few times today, I've tried to pick something up and my hand just won't close. It just spasms. I keep getting these twitches in my leg. I feel like they tested something on us. Some secret crowd control weapon, and they wanted to try it out on a small group no one was paying attention to. I don't know if that's what they did to me, and I have no idea if I've been permanently damaged. And that's the part that's really freaking me out. Meanwhile, we haven't heard anything yet from the people who were taken. Their X and YouTube accounts are silent. I'm still hoping they will turn up soon, but if I'm being honest, I threw the worst. If anyone else was involved in something like this, you have to reach out to me. We need to get our people back.
Part 3. The Government Black Site. Look, a lot of people know my face. Whenever a major protest kicks off, I'll be the one with the megaphone. I'm the one leading the chants. It puts a target on your back, and I've accepted that. That's exactly what I think happened yesterday during the LA riots. We were in the middle of an intense clash. The police line charged. It was pure chaos. I took a rubber bullet to the ribs that knocked the wind out of me, and I hit the pavement. As I was trying to get to my feet, an officer charged and clubbed me over the head with his baton. I was dazed, stumbling around, trying to get my bearings, when this guy showed up next to me. He was clean-cut. He looked like he may have lived in the neighborhood. He grabbed my arm and said, "You're too important to get arrested. Come on, my place is right here." He pulled me out of a screaming mob and up the walkway to his nice little bungalow. I was so grateful I could have kissed the guy. Inside, it was dead silent. The noise of the riot just vanished. "See," he said, with a warm smile, "much better." He sat me down in a comfortable armchair and came back from the kitchen with an ice pack and some alcohol wipes. As he pressed the pack to the growing lump of my head, he started talking, his voice full of admiration. "I've seen you out there," he said. "The way you command the crowd, it's incredible. You're the real deal. Guys like you, you're the ones making history. The rest of us, we just watch. But you're out there on the front lines, you're leading the charge." He was laying it on thick, but damn it if it didn't feel good to hear. My ego was bruised as much as my body, and he was healing both. He cleaned the scrape on my elbow with the wipes, all while asking broad questions. "What's the general feeling out there? Do you think the message is getting through?" I answered eagerly, happy to have a sympathetic ear. But slowly, the tone began to shift. He leaned forward a little, his eyes got more intense. "But your group specifically," he said, his voice a little lower. "What's its name? How do you organize your protests? Who is the other leaders that I need to know about? What's your strategy for the next 24 hours? And what's your plan for the federal building tomorrow? You have one, right?" The questions came fast, one after another. It was like an interview. A cold feeling started to creep up my spine. This started to feel like an interrogation. Was this guy a Fed or something? I must have let it show on my face because he suddenly leaned back and laughed, a friendly sound that didn't match the intensity in his eyes. Sorry, he said, holding his hands up. "I just get so passionate. It's fascinating. Anyways, you look beat up, man, and you must be parched. Let me get you some water." I was so thirsty, I gratefully accepted. As he walked to the kitchen, I heard a sound from the floor above, the heavy, distinct footfall of someone wearing boots. He came back with a cold bottle of water and handed it to me. "I just need to pop upstairs and check on my son. He's sleeping," he said, smiling. The footsteps didn't sound like a young son to me, but I let it pass and gratefully took a long sip of the water. That's when I noticed the front door. It had 3 different locks on it, one a heavy-duty deadbolt. That's weird, I thought. But then I rationalized it. There's a riot on the street. Of course he's upgraded his security. It makes sense. That's when I started to feel a bit woozy. Was this a concussion or something else? A thick, syrupy grogginess began to creep into my limbs. It wasn't exhaustion. It felt different. And with that woozy feeling, my earlier rationalizations began to fall apart. My eyes darted around the room. The blackout curtains. I noticed there was no natural light coming in. Maybe they weren't just for privacy. And the sound from the street had totally died away, but I knew it was mayhem outside. Maybe the house was soundproofed. A knot of dread tightened in my stomach. I needed to see if this was a normal house. I got up, my movements feeling slow and deliberate. I looked around the living room for family photos on the walls or mantelpiece. Nothing. Not a single picture. I walked into the kitchen and opened the fridge. It was completely empty, not even the carton of milk. A surge of panic hit me. I opened the pantry, bare shelves. I pulled open the cupboard. Not a plate, not one cup. This wasn't a home. I was suddenly sure this was a black site, and I knew in one horrifying, crystal-clear moment that I had to get out. A jolt of pure adrenaline cut through the fog. I stumbled, knocking a chair over, and rushed to the front door. My fingers felt like fat, clumsy sausages fumbling with the locks. I couldn't get them open. Panic was choking me. I started stumbling around, knocking into things, just looking for another way out. I was making a ton of noise, and then I heard shouting from upstairs. Heavy footfalls began coming down in a rush. I found a side door and I just threw my whole body against it. It burst open and I scrambled into a small backyard. I hauled myself over the tall wooden fence and collapsed behind a bush in the neighbor's yard. Then everything went black. I woke up hours later. It was dark and the streets were quiet. I was stiff, sore, and my head was pounding. I crept around the block and looked at the house. It was completely dark. No lights, no sign of anyone inside. It just looked abandoned. And now I'm left with this. Was the water drugged, or was I just dehydrated? Maybe had a concussion from the baton? Was this some creepy 3-letter guy with a plan, or was I just exhausted and paranoid from another day of fighting in LA? I can't be sure. I don't have any proof. All I know is that for a few panicked minutes in that house, I was more scared than I've ever been in my entire life. I feel like I dodged a bullet. I just have no idea who fired the shot.
So what do you guys think? Are these isolated incidents or part of something bigger? That's for you to decide. If you want to go deeper down the rabbit hole, subscribe and leave a like. What do you think is really going on in Los Angeles? Let us know your theories in the comments. Good night.